Imagine you're the captain of a merchant ship crossing the Atlantic in the early 1700s. The journey has been long, but successful. Your cargo hold is packed with valuable goods, your crew is relaxed, and the sea is calm. Then one of your sailors suddenly points toward the horizon. At first, you can barely see anything through the fog, but slowly, a dark shape begins to emerge. A ship. Then another sailor spots a black flag. Panic spreads across the deck. The closer the vessel gets, the more terrifying the sight becomes. Standing at the front is a massive man with a thick black beard. No one says a word, because everyone already knows who he is. Blackbeard, the most feared pirate on Earth. A man so terrifying that many ships surrendered before he fired a single cannon. But here's the strangest part of the story. Blackbeard ruled the seas for less than 2 years. Less than 2 years. Yet more than 300 years later, the world still remembers his name. This is the true story of Blackbeard. Long before he became Blackbeard, he was simply a man named Edward Teach, although historians still debate the exact spelling of his surname. Unlike many famous figures in history, surprisingly little is known about his early life. There are no dramatic stories about a legendary childhood, no prophecies, no signs that he would one day become the most infamous pirate of his era. What historians do know is that he was likely born in England sometime around 1680. During his youth, the British Empire was expanding rapidly. Ships crossed the Atlantic constantly, carrying wealth between Europe, Africa, and the Americas. The oceans had become the highways of the world, and where wealth travels, danger follows. At the time, many sailors lived difficult lives. They worked for little pay, endured brutal conditions, and risked death on every voyage. For some, piracy offered something ordinary life never could: freedom, money, power. Edward Teach eventually found himself drawn into that world, and once he entered it, there was no turning back. Many pirates became feared because they were violent. Blackbeard became feared because he understood psychology. He realized something most people never do. People are often defeated in their minds long before they're defeated in battle. Instead of simply attacking ships, he carefully created an image designed to terrify anyone who saw him. His enormous black beard became famous throughout the Atlantic. Before battles, he would weave slow-burning fuses into his beard and beneath his hat. These fuses produced streams of smoke that surrounded his face. Combined with his massive frame, his weapons, and his cold stare, the effect was unforgettable. Sailors who encountered him often described him as looking less like a man and more like a demon. And that was exactly what Blackbeard wanted, because every battle carried risks. Cannons could kill, bullets could miss, ships could sink. But if a crew surrendered immediately, Blackbeard got everything he wanted without losing men or damaging valuable cargo. His greatest weapon wasn't his sword. It was fear. As Blackbeard's reputation spread, his power grew rapidly. Soon, he captured one of the most important prizes of his career, a large French slave ship. Instead of selling it, he transformed it into his flagship. He renamed it Queen Anne's Revenge. The ship carried dozens of cannons and was one of the most powerful pirate vessels operating in the Atlantic. With this floating fortress under his command, Blackbeard became nearly unstoppable. Merchant captains began sharing stories about him in every port. Rumors spread faster than facts. Some claimed he had made a deal with the devil. Others believed he couldn't be killed. Every new story made him even more dangerous. Because by this point, many sailors were terrified before they ever saw him. The legend had become larger than the man himself. And Blackbeard knew exactly how to use that legend. Blackbeard decided to attempt something almost unbelievable. Instead of attacking a single ship, he targeted an entire city. Near the coast of what is now South Carolina stood Charleston, one of the most important ports in the American colonies. Blackbeard positioned his ships near the harbor entrance and effectively took control of the surrounding waters. Any vessel attempting to enter or leave was intercepted. Passengers were captured, merchants were trapped, trade came to a standstill. Imagine waking up one morning to discover that a pirate controls the sea outside your city. Every day that passed increased panic. Authorities scrambled to respond, but Blackbeard held all the cards. Eventually, he demanded supplies and medicine in exchange for his prisoners. The city had little choice. His demands were met, and after proving that he could bring one of the most important ports in the colonies to its knees, Blackbeard sailed away. Without firing a shot at the city itself, the event shocked the Atlantic world. It proved that Blackbeard was no longer merely a criminal. He had become a symbol of fear, powerful enough to challenge governments. But power attracts enemies, and Blackbeard had made a lot of them. Merchants wanted revenge. Colonial governors wanted order restored. Naval officers wanted glory. The pressure to eliminate him grew stronger every day. Meanwhile, Blackbeard appeared confident, perhaps too confident. Some historians believe he began relying too heavily on his reputation. Others think he simply believed he was untouchable. Either way, his enemies were closing in. Soon, a plan was set into motion. Lieutenant Robert Maynard of the Royal Navy received a mission: find Blackbeard. Kill him. End the legend, no matter the cost. The hunt eventually led to Ocracoke Island, off the coast of North Carolina. There, on a cold morning in November 1718, Blackbeard's fate finally caught up with him. As Maynard's ships approached, the pirates prepared for battle. Cannons thundered across the water. Smoke filled the air. Wood splintered. Men screamed. The fighting was brutal. At one point, Blackbeard believed he had already won, but Maynard had a surprise waiting. Many of his soldiers were hidden below deck. When Blackbeard boarded the vessel expecting an easy victory, dozens of armed men suddenly emerged. The deck exploded into chaos. Gunfire echoed. Swords clashed. Men fought at close range. Then came the moment that would become legendary. Blackbeard himself entered the fight. Even after suffering multiple wounds, he continued battling. Witnesses later claimed he was shot several times and struck repeatedly with swords before finally collapsing. Only then did the most feared pirate in the Atlantic fall. After years of terror, the legend was dead. Or so people thought, because Blackbeard's body died that day. But Blackbeard himself never truly disappeared. Over 3 centuries later, his name remains synonymous with piracy. Books tell his story. Movies borrow his image. Video games recreate his adventures. And whenever people imagine a pirate captain, they often picture someone who looks remarkably like Blackbeard. What's fascinating is that his actual pirate career lasted less than 2 years. 2 years. That's all it took. 2 years to create a legend powerful enough to survive for centuries. Perhaps that's because Blackbeard understood something timeless. Fear can be more powerful than force. Stories can be more powerful than reality. And sometimes, the image people believe becomes stronger than the truth itself. The man named Edward Teach is long gone. But Blackbeard still sails through history.